president of American Psychological Associations, and he have this idea about positive psychology because he evaluated the development of psychology that most of them are focusing on mental illness, mental problems, but he said that the positive side of human being is mostly neglected. So that's why he initiated a movement to focus on studying the positive side of a human being. And actually, this idea is already pioneered by Abraham Maslow in 1935, 1943, yeah, that in that time Maslow was going to write a book about abnormal psychology, and then he think, what about the normal psychology? So that's why he developed the need hierarchy theory and lead the humanistic movement, yeah, in psychology. And if we trace back in the history, actually Maslow's idea have a lot of influence in other psychologists, including the Gestalt psychology, the Viktor Frankl, and so forth. And Seligman actually is one of them, the one that is influenced by the idea of how to study the psychology of normal people, and it's influenced by Abraham Maslow's thinking. That's why when we learn about positive psychology, we will find we will recognize, yeah, some influence from the humanistic psychology in the study of positive psychology. For example, about freedom, yeah, about freedom. One of the figure, yeah, in the positive psychology is Csikszentmihalyi, the one who introduced the phenomenon of flow, and the basic idea of the theory of flow actually is the intrinsic motivation theory. And intrinsic motivation theory actually is based on the concept of freedom, that to motivate individual, you don't need to stimulate them with incentive or rewards, but each individual have intrinsic motivation. They have the freedom to do whatever they want. So that's the idea of freedom that was already around in humanistic psychology. And then they have also a concept of responsibility. Yeah, the concept of responsibility started in the in the era of humanistic psychology, because if you reflect to the Freudian and also behavior psychology, they don't talk about responsibility. They blame the upbringing, they blame the environment, yeah, about concerning human behavior, yeah. But in humanistic psychology, because there's freedom, it comes with responsibilities. And also positive psychology also talk about the initiative of an individual, yeah, the consciousness, how to do good deeds and so forth. So this is the responsibility part of the positive psychology. And then also values, yeah. In positive psychology, the values is called as virtues, yeah. Virtues actually is the similar concept and a very related concept with values, yeah, and it is part of the positive psychology terminologies that is studied in the discipline of positive psychology. And then there's a topic about needs, yeah, that initiated by the Maslow's theory of hierarchy theory of human needs, yeah, and this is also the foundation, yeah, of the positive psychology. And also there's a topic about meaning, which is also introduced by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning in Logotherapy, and this is also embraced, yeah, by the positive psychology movement. And also, of course, in humanistic psychology, the most, I mean, like the icon, yeah, of humanistic psychology is self-actualization, and this is also have a lot of influence in the theories of positive psychology, and they attribute this. They focus this actualization on how to develop character strength. Yes, character strength. It's the term in positive psychology, but actually, the concept is similar to the self-actualized person. And last but not least, there's a theory about morality that is also um, uh, discussed, yeah, in the positive psychology movement. And the most prominent scholar about morality is Lawrence Kohlberg, yeah, who construct a theory of morality development. And these are the terms that is already introduced by humanistic psychology, but also become the foundation of positive psychology. And positive psychology itself introduced a number of terms that explain that focus on the positive side of human being. And one of the initial book by Martin Seligman is about happiness. So happiness becomes object of study in the positive psychology, and there are some theories about happiness. For example, the authentic happiness. Yeah, there's a theory about happiness by Martin Seligman, and he explained in that book that happiness have three levels. Yeah, that there's a pleasant life, a good life, and meaningful life. Yeah, that's the three levels of happiness, which further on he integrate this in the concept of flourishing. So happiness becomes an important topic, become an topic of interest in the research of positive psychology, and also the study about well-being, yeah, like subjective well-being, psychological well-being, is also in the same cluster, yeah, as the happiness study, and this is also very trending currently, yeah, in many academic research. And then the term that it also introduced and also very and quite strongly advocated, yeah, in positive psychology is about gratitude. Yeah, gratitude is the term that uh, in the past they don't talk about it in psychology. Yeah, usually gratitude is kind of values that are related to religion and social maybe social interaction. Yeah, but in positive psychology, gratitude is included in the topic of interest in psychology, and there's some study about gratitudes that prove that to be grateful is healthy. Yeah, if you can express your gratitude, then you will become healthier. Yeah, become mentally healthier. So that's why gratitude is also very very bold, term, yeah, in positive psychology recently initiated by Seligman. And the next topic is about hope. Hope is also um, a positive psychological state, yeah, hopeful. And I think nowadays, I mean, like in many textbook and many book about um, clinical psychology or about self-help book, yeah, there's a lot of topic about hope, and hope becomes also uh, a topic of interest in many studies. There are some theories about hope. There are some, also different perspective about hope that is uh, that become an interesting topic in the discussion of positive psychology. And actually, hope is very fundamental. Yeah, actually, this is also in line with the religion. Yeah, and in this case, in Islamic psychology, we'll also talk about hope. But we will discuss later on about how it is not exactly the same and how to differentiate between positive psychology and Islamic psychology concerning this term. And the next topic in positive psychology is optimism. Yeah, then this is also introduced actually scientifically, theoretically by Martin Seligman. Yeah, he has a book of Learn Optimism. And the term about optimism, actually the term optimism actually is a response to the trend of the self-esteem movement. Yeah, in the past, the self-esteem movement is quite dominant but popular in the psychology's discourse, yeah, psychological discourse, yeah. So that's why a lot of education, like TV program for children, they talk about optimism with some term like you are special just the way you are, something like that. Everybody's special. That's a self-esteem movement, yeah. But recently, this self-esteem movement um, was criticized because it developed a certain kind of personality in the American youngster, yeah, that they become insensitive about their limitation. They become insensitive about failure. I mean, like they are not ready to face difficulties in life. So that's why in the positive psychology, the term self-esteem is not, promoted anymore, and it is replaced by optimism. And optimism means that you have to accept the reality that you are not always successful. Maybe sometimes you fail, but the more important thing is how you can get up and run again. So that's why optimism is part of the character strength that is promoted by the positive psychology, and it's more realistic than self-esteem. Okay. By the way, in humanistic psychology, self-esteem is also is still part of the what do you call it, the character, yeah, of in an individual that is promoted. For example, in Maslow's theory, the the hierarchy of needs, the fourth level before actualization actually is self-esteem, yeah, esteem needs, need for esteem. So that's why this optimism actually quite a new contribution from the positive psychology that modified or correct the idea of self-esteem, corrected, yeah. Okay, and the next term that is becoming popular in positive psychology is uh, character strength. Actually, some of these variables or construct, yeah, actually if they combine them, then it will become the character strength. of an individual. Yeah, and the book about character strength is like a vocabulary of the terms that becoming the focus of study in positive psychology. But I'm not going to present all of them because it's quite a lot. So I just highlight some popular and important foundation, yeah, on of these character strengths. Optimism, hope, yeah, gratitude. So it's part of this character strength. Okay, so when we compare the positive psychology with humanistic psychology, actually what Maslow meant by self-actualization was based on character strength, but Maslow doesn't choose this term because the individualistic value was very strong in humanistic psychology, but in positive psychology, I think, yeah, this is my evaluation. I think this individualistic value is a little bit reduced. For example, gratitude actually is one of the idea in positive psychology that suggests us to move out from our individual interests. So we have to reach out, yeah, reach out to the other people, say thanks, yeah, recognize other people's contributions. So this is the difference between humanistic psychology and positive psychology. And character strength, as the term, is also more acceptable by many, rationally, and it doesn't provoke any conflicting attitude, because if you talk about self-actualization, some people might interpret that as selfishness, because the concept of self-actualization is that an individual is only doing what they like. They only satisfied about who they are and whatever they do. I mean, they enjoy whatever they do because they think that this is about them, about me, about I. The individualistic nature of humanistic psychology is quite strong. But when we talk about character strength, it is the idea about character strength actually implied that an individual is also beneficial to the society, and it's not focusing on the individual interests. So the character strength, meaning that if an individual have a character strength, meaning that he is reliable, he is willing to help, willing to contribute, and so forth. So this is also some differences, yeah. And also there's the concept of altruism and OCB and so forth. Actually, is in line with the positive psychology. And then there's also a concept of grit, yeah. Grit also one of the term that becoming popular lately in the in line with the positive psychology, yeah. Grit is, even though it's still about the self, yeah, but grit means similar to optimism, but it is focused on the result. So if somebody has grit, he will never give up. He will always try many things to achieve the goal, and they will achieve the goal, whatever it takes. Yeah, that's the grit concept of grit. So it's similar to optimism, but it's more focusing on the result. And within the concept of grit, there's also acceptance of difficulties and failures, temporary failures, and so forth, and they don't rely on the self-esteem, yeah, because when you rely on self-esteem or self-confidence, you think that you are special, you think that you are entitled, yeah, but great focus on uh, the effort that you are not entitled, you have to fight for it, something like that, yeah. So this is also part of the character strength, but it's introduced by other scholar, yeah. All right, and then flourishing, yeah, flourishing is the modification, yeah, of the concept of happiness by Seligman, and flourishing is a concept of um, development, yeah, individual development, but also in a happy way. You know, when you flourish, you enjoy your life, but you develop. I think that's the main idea. Yeah. So that's why when you flourish, uh, you as an individual, then you will be successful and happy. You know, so it's very related to happiness because the concept itself actually is the integration and development of the concept of happiness. Yeah. For example, in the early theory, the authentic happiness, Seligman divided the happiness into three levels. And then in the flourishing, these three levels become three dimension of happiness, you know, like the pleasant life, the good life, and the meaningful life. Actually, three dimension of flourishing, you know, so that you can have, you know, pleasant and good and meaningful life altogether. You know? But in the earlier theory of authentic happiness, Seligman explained these three kind of happiness as different level. You know, pleasant life is the superficial happiness, good life is more deeper, and meaningful life is the highest level of happiness. So this is the development of the idea, the flourishing. Uh, Last but not least, yeah, the topic of spirituality is also emerging, yeah, in the positive psychology movement. However, this spirituality, if we compare to the Islamic perspective, actually does not relate to God, does not relate to Allah. So that's why there's a term spirituality without religion. You know, those kind of term actually it is not coherent with the idea of Islamic psychology. Yeah, but um, there's a reason why the positive psychology adopted this term. Yeah, because like what Seligman wrote in his book. Yeah, actually when he tried to, you know, when he tried to level up this happiness like pleasant life, good life, and meaningful life, actually he has an idea, or he's thinking there must be some higher level of happiness. And then he said, but this higher level of happiness will involve, you know, religion, which is they say it's something ancient, something that is already old. You know, it's not, you know, it's in the past. You know, they view religion as something in the past, but that we shouldn't go back there, something like that. Yeah, that's the term. Actually, there's study about happiness, yeah, comparing between Seligman and Csikszentmihalyi and Imam al-Ghazali, and it is found that Seligman and Csikszentmihalyi actually um, already thought about the next level of happiness, but they stopped there because of they think we are not going to back to religion. That's already past, you know, in the past. Yeah. So this is interesting. Yeah. Okay. This is about positive psychology. Of course, there's a lot of issues, a lot of debate in it, but at least this is the core. And something quite disturbing from the Islamic perspective, yeah. When they talk about morality, um, Abraham Maslow said that morality is relative to culture because a good and bad, there is no absolute good and bad because each culture have their own custom, there has own values. That's why morality is relative to culture. So this is the idea of humanistic psychology, but also adopted by positive psychology. So, for example, if we read the theory of uh, morality development, yeah, by Lawrence Kohlberg, they have 6 levels of morality development, and they put morality based on religion is in the middle level, but the highest level is a morality that is based on the individual itself. So if you can, decide what is good or bad by yourself, that's the highest level of morality. So that's why it is clear that the humanistic and positive psychology uh, stop in the individual or the humanism, yeah, idea. So they still deny or does not accept the relationship between human being and God and Allah. That's also happened with spirituality. Yeah, the theory about spirituality development by Fowler. Yeah, it is also said that the highest level of spirituality is the one according to themselves, the oneself. Yeah, if the highest level of spirituality is the one that you decide yourself. Okay, so it's the self-oriented, concept is still there, even though, like I said before, there's positive psychology idea actually is becoming, more socially, considerate, yeah, more embracing, other people and a social life. But in some theory, they still focus the individual. They think that the individual is the one who has the highest authority to decide what kind of morality, what kind of spirituality that they will um, apply, or they will believe, and they will choose, yeah, in their life. So this is the individualistic perspective. All right, so we can conclude that positive psychology is uh, is how you understand people from the positive perspective, yeah. But some critics said that actually this is the other, or the development of humanistic psychology, but with more scientific research, supported by scientific studies, because the Maslow theory of hierarchy of needs actually is constructed not through scientific studies, but more on more philosophical. Like Maslow himself confessed that this is the idea that need to be studied further. Yeah, especially about self-actualization, because it is not clear, scientifically. But positive psychology can contribute more scientific study, yeah, to construct this, to support the construct that they introduce, including about gratitude and mm, flourishing and so on. The problem with positive psychology, that it is still based on the philosophy of humanism, meaning that it hasn't reached up, yeah, to the 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 power of the Almighty God. It does not recognize the relation between human and Allah. Yeah, so this is for them it's a simple thing, but for us as a Muslim, from Islamic psychology, this is the core. Like in Islamic psychology, the core belief is tawhid. Tawhid means that everything's uh, will be back to Allah. Yeah. So that's why, even though the difference seems like a small difference, but this is very fundamental. And also, critics about positive psychology is that because it focused too much on the positive side of human beings, so the positive psychology movement is not quite sensitive in developing therapy, because they are not focusing on the mental problem. So they kind of have no suggestion or no practice, to help people that has problems. So they focus on people that is normal. So this is another issue. And of course, about morality, they still think, that morality is relative. It depends on the culture and the community, the different culture, different morality, and so forth. Okay, now we switch to the Islamic psychology. Again, Islamic psychology actually, the modern Islamic psychology was initiated by Professor Malik B. Badri in the 80s, in the early 80s. The book of The Dilemma of Muslim Psychologists was published in the year 1979, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and after that, the movement grows. Yeah, to in many countries, and now it's going around the world. But actually, the concept, of Islamic psychology, the fundamental concept actually is already discussed in the classical and the middle, medieval time, with the classic scholars like Al-Balkhi and also Imam Al-Ghazali. Yeah, those scholars, classic scholars, already thought about psychology, even though they don't call it as psychology. But then, if we go deeper than the word, if we go deeper to the meaning, actually, psyche uh, means the soul. Psyche means the individual, the mind, the personality, the soul. So that's why the term in Arabic, or the most appropriate translation of psyche in Arabic actually is nafs. So that's why if we go deeper to the meaning, not in the terminology, actually the psychology in the Islamic world is called the ilmu nafs. So if we study more about ilmu nafs, so it has been all discussed since 1,000 years ago. Even though then it is like stopped in the middle of the way, and then reintroduced again in the 1980s by Prof. Malik Badri. So when we talk about Islamic psychology, it is not a new thing. Actually, it is an a classic idea, and not old. Yeah, it's already a fundamental idea in the Islamic teaching. But then we integrate, like we innovate. Yeah, we innovate so that it can communicate with the current psychological discourse. Yes, this is the Islamic psychology. Okay, so basic term, yeah, the basic concepts, yeah, in Islamic psychology, especially is based on the Quranic messages. The first concept that is fundamental and actually is the name of the discipline is the nafs. Yeah. So if we refer to the Quranic messages and the Quranic ayat, the word nafs it involve. I mean, it represent um, the individual, the soul, the identity, the personality, and also you know, uh, the self. Yeah. So it is mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, the first ayat, yeah, that Allah created human beings starting from one nafs, and this one nafs is the Prophet Adam, and then he created the wife and the children, and become there are many people on the earth. Yeah, so the nafs actually is the one individual, but also the nafs in other verses, in other messages, explains about the soul. Yeah, the soul means it's not the body. It's not the body. That's in the Islamic perspective. There's a body, yeah, and there's a soul. The soul is the one that is unseen, that's ghaib, but it is the source of the consciousness. Because when the soul leaves the body, then the body becomes a corpse, yeah. So the body will not be alive. So what makes an individual, a human being, alive is because there's a soul in it, meaning that the body and the soul is integrated when human being live in this world. Okay, so that's why even though the body and the soul is actually two different entity, but when we talk about human being in this world, the nafs refers to the whole individual, because the soul uh, is inside or is integrated in the body. So this is also mentioned by Prof. Naqib Al-Atas, yeah, the concept about the body and the nafs, the body and the soul. Yeah, it's like a sponge. Yeah, the sponge who absorb water and become one. That's the human being. But the water can be extracted from the sponge. If you squeeze, then the water will be separated from the sponge, and it become body and the soul. It can be separated. But when the sponge contain water, it becomes something else. Yeah, that has a different characteristic. Yeah, and it is the human being. So this is the idea of human being. And then another fundamental term in Islamic psychology is the qalb. Yeah, the qalb, based on the hadith, yeah, is the core of the nafs. So the core of the self, the core of the self that will determine the quality of the individual. That's the core. So the core actually and the nafs is not two separate things, but the qalb is the core of the nafs. And even Imam Al-Ghazali mentioned that, uh, the soul actually is in the heart. The heart contains the soul. So, I mean, this concept, uh, so the qalb is the core of the self that will determine the quality of the self. And then the third term is the akal. Yeah, the akal actually is the one who will determine the quality of the qalb or the self. The akal is the activities, is the properties of the qalb and the self. So it's multidimensional. Yeah? The one who use their akal is the one who are guided. So if you don't use your akal, then you are not guided. So the whole individual, the whole self, and is will downgrade if you don't use the akal. So akal is the quality of the individual. It is the activity of the heart, and this is the quality of the nafs also. Okay, so this I'll show you the development of this concept in the theory of human potential. Yeah, that we have sensing, reasoning, empathy, and conscience. And this is 4 layers of the human nafs, or so that which is representing the soul. But this is the potential that we have all share. And if we talk about morality, so the actually empathy is the potential that can express or accept this cultural morality. But we have this conscience, which is the connection to Allah, that can understand the absolute morality. So the difference between positive psychology and Islamic psychology is that the positive psychology doesn't explain about the conscience. They reject the connection with Allah. So their morality is only relative. They don't accept the absolute morality. So this is the main the main issue in positive psychology. And I think that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum Thank you so much, Doctor, for the insightful presentation. Now we will now proceed with a short Q&A session. And we only have one question for you, Doctor. And the question is regarding the humanistic psychology framework that we were looking at just now, the first few slides. And we can see that personal values are often seen as fundamental to to give meaning to life, as you said just now. So, from your perspective, Doctor, why do you think personal values are considered so central to mental health and fulfillment within the framework?
Within the framework of humanistic psychology, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yeah. We have to understand beyond this statement, yeah, because they are in the individualistic culture, like United States, mostly individual culture, and they develop this theory based on top of these cultural values. So in the individualistic culture, the highest value is self-reliance. Yeah, this is also is already introduced by the earlier scholars, yeah, of American earlier scholars, yeah. So that's why the humanistic psychology thinks, yeah, humanistic psychology thinks that everything, the highest, value is the one that you yourself are believe in strongly, and you yourself feel good about it, and you yourself think that it is your identity, yourself, your actualization, and so forth. So that's why they are limited with these values and this culture.
All right, thank you for the answer, Doctor. So that will be all the questions that we have for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the end of our webinar, of this session of our webinar. So, thank you again, Doctor. This session has truly expanded our understanding of psychology in the context that we have shared today. We have learned a couple of new keywords such as happiness, greed, optimism under the new positive psychology. So, Doctor, thank you. It was a privilege to learn from you, and we hope that we shall see you again in other series. So, for our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Please follow us on our official social media platforms. So, with this, I say thank you very much and Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you.